Listen up, parents, or anybody else who wants kids.
Is Marshall McLuhan isn't dead anymore. It should resonate in your head. The medium becomes the message, and the medium right now in civilization and society is the aberrant use of the electromagnetic force. And it turns out that's how advertising, like you asked another question about how we think. I'm going to tell you, advertising is another method of thinking that uses the electromagnetic force to wirelessly deliver a message from a marketer into your children. They have been way more successful than you have as parents.
Boom! That's one of the biggest truth bombs. Your kids being taught by Rockefeller knowledge. John Dee manifested that shit. He manifested that every child born into this system, it's taught by his knowledge, not your knowledge. But you can change this easy. Or maybe not that easy in some countries, but you can still do it. And you have to do it.
And you don't realize that as soon as you give them an iPhone or an iPad, you've already lost. You know the story of the Trojan horse? That's exactly what the iPad and the iPhone are for children. You've already lost as soon as you wheeled it in.
Technology. That's the last thing they did. That was their true masterpiece. That really got us. You can see it in the kids these days. They're a little different. The kids who grow up, I was probably one of the last years that still grew up with minimal technology. That wasn't nearly as bad as it is today. But that was the Trojan horse, like Jack said. Perfect example.
And that idea should really resonate with people who are fans of Marshall McLuhan. Why? Because I believe we've already got the guardian at the gate, which is technology. Now the next big thing that's even worse than technology is artificial intelligence. Why? Because now you're taking artificial thoughts, which are based on the electromagnetic force. This is light that's being used to go into your children's head as a USB drive to disconnect them from how biophotons are really made so that they can think for themselves. And I'm going to tell you, humans that can think accretively and creatively by themselves are going to become the rarest creatures. But I will tell you something else that goes back to Claude Shannon's idea. The rare, the unusual, they're the ones that are going to be the force carriers that people are going to listen to. And I will tell you, the single most important thing for parents to hear is that these ideas that I'm sharing with you right now, you better think about it really long and hard, because we are pushing our entire species into the sixth extinction. If we allow AI...
Really? Think about it, what we are doing? Not many are, because like Jack said, nobody can think anymore. Everybody is freaking retards. Myself included sometimes. I grow up in this system. We all a little bit retarded. Thanks to this technology. Thanks to the geoengineering. Thanks to the shitty ass food. Thanks to not being out there enough. And it's getting worse and worse. Our environment is getting worse. It's terrible. That's why everybody is so sick, retarded, can't think anymore. Like these kids are falling apart before kindergarten, bruh. Usually human beings were falling apart when they turn into 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. These days, you don't even get your first day at kindergarten, which is a good thing because most of the kindergartners probably suck. That's when the education starts for these kids. But anyway, most kids are already destroyed before they even turn to the kindergarten. That's why the technology is perfect for the technocrats and the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Zionists, people who control us. It's a perfect way to control us without them lifting a finger, just doing anything anymore. They created it and they reap what they sow. Anyway, how to not do it, how to cancel these effects. Only way to do it is return to nature. And maybe some raw chicken. Or some raw horse meat. Get some raw horse meat in you. Get some of that savage Genghis Khan energy back. We need a little bit more of that. Or not just a little bit more.
To take over the way humans think, this is not going to end well. And it doesn't mean that humans are not fallible. They are fallible. But these ideas, like you make the assumption that AI would have came up with the solution for the photoelectric effect. I don't. The only thing that AI is good for, it's as good as the idiot that puts the data in. So that means that we need a lot of Einstein level thinkers to actually put this information into AI. All AI is, it centralizes human ideas. And this is the medium and the message here. And when you understand that, when they're able to get control of the way humans think through the people that control the AI, this is when the battle is lost. Parents need to understand that basic. They've already done it with light. You don't realize. Now, when I grew up outside. I didn't have any technology.
Outside all
That's
day.
the world that I grew up in. I personally believe that's the reason why my brain works the way it does. I don't see too many people who think like I do anymore. Why? Because of what you said. Because most of the kids out there, they have been polluted, and it started with video games. It started with the Commodore 64, and then it went through Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, and then it's, at all the other games they play, Doom and everything else. But now it's in
I remember Doom.
Now it's in phone.
Doom was the shit. That was the kind of some of the first games I played. And that was horrible for me. That's why I feel like a tart sometimes. I was super big on video games. Pretty long time. It was fun time. Playing with the friends or by yourself. But yeah. It's pretty sickly to think about it now, when you really understand. But even then it was better because we didn't have these strong Wi-Fi's. The internet was always plugged into the wall, so it's not as bad. The EMFs were not as strong back then. So these days, it's hell on earth.
Now it's in TVs, it's in your refrigerators, it's in your washer and dryer. Like, if you really are good, you train your children how to go into the motherboard and take all of the RFID devices out and all of the things that emit electromagnetism out, and just use a refrigerator for what it's for, is to keep your food cold and return the entry back into your kitchen. That's really all you need a refrigerator for. You don't need your refrigerator to talk to President Xi in China. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, bro.
But you have to remember, the architects that are
By
building
design.
this technocracy, that is very important to them, because what are they trying to do? The medium is their message. They want that you just bought a refrigerator, but you didn't. You bought a Chinese spy that's sitting in your house that actually keeps your hamburger meat cold. That's all you bought. And until you get that level of sophistication, you're going to realize everything around you is the same way. So this is the
It's crazy that people don't think about these things true. Or is it really? Actually, it's not that crazy because, like I said, everybody's retarded. And you can see it all the time, bro. And it's not like I'm like looking down on people or anything. It's just how it is. It's just the reality of things. You have to acknowledge it to change it. And most people feel like shit. I see it all the time in real life. Most people feel like shit, absolute garbage most of the time. And then they try to get some little bit of happiness with this artificial thing or that dopamine spike or whatever. And then they feel like shit 30 minutes later. The next day they feel even more shit. Like, don't get me started with drugs or anything, but this technology, like, people just don't have the capacity to think about these things anymore. How bad the technology is. And also they really don't let it, like, they really don't let this message to the masses at all. You don't see any of this in the newspapers, on the TV shows, or whatever. They always talk about, like, the newspapers always talk about some fear in form of political, fucking Trump did this, Putin did that, or some kind of health thing. It's always in the newspaper covers that I watch in the stores. It's always some health scare thing or thing about money. This is how you save money, this is how you lose money, this is how you become healthy, this is how you lose health. You might not know this many people are sick because of this. Or then it's some political fear programming. Anyway, Jack, continue.
reason why. As I said to you before, understand that technology and AI is destructive to mitochondrial biology. That means that you as a parent need to disrupt the message so that you can reconnect them to what they're designed to be. And you can show them the picture of the Sphinx. You can show them the picture of the wild animals, in Africa or in the ocean. This is what wild animals do. It's not what your teacher tells you. The hamburger meat that we eat at home came from a
wild animals. A little bit of savages. Just a little bit.
cow that somebody killed. And that's not a fundamental bad problem. That's actually how the decentralized web is designed to work. That's what you have to do as a parent. You have to stop being friends to your children and tell them the truth. Turn them into great thinkers.
I think Jack will get to this, but the problem is, how can you teach this to your kids if you are not a great thinker? If you do, you don't know any better. How you can teach this to the kids?
It's really difficult to do. Why? Because most parents are dumbed down by the technology that they think is making them more productive. All it does is makes them more obedient idiots, so they go deeper in debt. That's all it does. They don't realize the entire system is built against them. They have no idea who the wizard is behind the screen. And it's very destructive for them when they see it. Because then it goes to what I said to you before. This is exactly what we saw in COVID. People don't want to know really what happened with COVID. All the people that took the shot, they're like, great, Jack, I'm glad you know about all this, but I don't want to hear it. Why? Because I already feel bad enough. And I'm already feeling bad enough because I have 3 jobs, because if I didn't take the shot, I had to go get another job to pay the bills. So I get where they're coming from. But here's the problem. It's okay if those people don't want to hear the truth, but it's not okay to keep the truth from your children. Because it turns out, because you're a dumbass, you just ruined the world for them. And you have a duty to tell them the truth. This gets to the point of what I told you before about Doug Wallace, Ray Peat, Joe Dispenza. You understand why I am a pain in the ass for those people. Because I know when you sell people a half-truth, you always get a lie. And this...
Damn, son, think about that. How many marketers, charlatans, religious people, spiritual people, freaking CEOs. That's basically how our whole freaking system is built. It's built on a bunch of freaking health truths and lies. And it's pretty easy to see actually. You just need to get a little bit of nutrition in your brain, you just need to spend a little bit more time in the sunlight and you start to see this shit. You start to see straight through the shit.
Is how society is destroyed.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir. Uncle Jack, one of the most best human beings alive. And he articulates this shit so well. He knows the science like his own freaking pants, in and out. This is what science really is like. I pretty much lost hope for scientists because I saw the bullshit. Like, do you know who owns all these research papers, or who publicizes these what's the word, like looked up to research papers? Like people say this is some of the best research out there, but the publicizing platforms and agents, do you know who owns those? I learned that from Jack. Actually, I did hear it probably a few years ago from somewhere, but Jack reminded me. The Maxwell family. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein's little side chick. It all starts to make sense. But yeah, Jack has kinda brought me back to the science. And he is terrain theorist. Also, it's all about the environment, the outside environment and your own environment. That's how you make based human beings as a parent.